And so I would like to welcome everyone. Happy that a couple of you have found the way into this meeting, even if the most important stuff has already happened. And it's kind of like, why should no? There's a lot of cool things that we have to talk about for the future and not just about the past. And so definitely we were going to keep this governance meeting up every Thursday weekly. We are even thinking about adding more meetings around governance and stuff because there is so much things happening and there are so much things going on that we might need to extend our community ability to talk about all those things. As always, we will have a small agenda. Of course, we should and we can and we want to give a short outlook and overview over the vote, how it's progressing, what's going on there, and I got some data and some metrics also that might be interesting for everybody to get some insights. Um, Maybe then really have a talk about what a potential outcome that seems on the horizon would mean for us. What would be our next steps? Where are we heading? What can we do? Um, Maybe we want to talk a bit about Shimmer governance and things around Shimmer, because also Rob Kapi is here in the meeting. Be cool. Maybe if somebody has some questions about.
You are cutting out, my friend.
I'm cutting out. Oh no, already. Still, am I here or am I down? Greg?
Philo, we can't.
Yeah.
You're almost.
Okay.
You're warbling out
I'm
horribly.
warbling out. Damn it. Let me check.
Yeah, I can't hear him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, that's getting better, maybe.
It's getting better. It's my usual delay that kills me for a minute or so. I think it should be better now, huh? What do we say?
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
actually getting to the point where we couldn't hear you.
Okay.
Now it's improving a bit,
Yeah.
but it's still.
It's yeah, I think it should get better. I'm currently hoping that my streaming will work. Okay, anyway, yeah, so talk a bit about Shimmer governance, maybe about the proposal to increase supply and things like this. All open. And um, yeah, then in the end would be time as always open for questions, open for feedback, open for whatever you and everyone here in this meeting likes to talk about. And of course, all questions will try to answer as good as possible. Um, so maybe we kick it off with stuff about the vote. I think we can skip all the things, how voting works and what things mean. Everybody here in the meeting, as far as I have seen, should be kind of informed what it's all about. Um, Current results. So some interesting stuff happening around the vote, and I think the current outcome or the current result of 82% for build and 17 something percent for burn is quite a proper number. Um, Total, we are actually voting currently with 428 Ti of the circulating supply that is currently 2,503 tera IOTA. So participation is 17%. You see in the chart down there that we are very, very constant from day one, hovering around these numbers. We have seen it already in the 7-day pre-voting phase that I think we really, in the first minute, we started pushing into this 80% level, and we, with small changes, stayed very clearly in these areas. Also over the days, we have seen there is no much fluctuation or anything. Also in participation, there's like one TI more or less every day, but generally from day, I would say day 2, we are on this 428 TI 17% participation thing, hovering around, which is nice. Seems like everybody has made up their mind currently, and so that's also quite a good participation already, I would say. I come through why in the next thing. I made me some fun and looked a little bit into what our whales are doing, because I know, and we had a lot of discussions around, will token-based voting be used by the whales to influence this vote in their direction? Will there be bad actors playing a role in the thing? Will exchanges vote? And all this fears that we had, and where we prepared the voting system actually against such large token holders coming in with a couple of $1 million and doing crazy shit with our kind of community decision. And so I collected some data of currently I track and observe the top 100 richest addresses. Only 18 of these 100 addresses have participated in the vote, and 12 of those addresses voted for build and 6 voted for burn. The biggest single vote is an address that holds 20 TI. So that's the one big, and then we have a couple ones that have like 8 or 9, and the rest is like 3, 4, 5 TI in these top 100 addresses. Looking at these 100 addresses, those 18 have voted with 74% for build and 25.6% for burn. No exchange address has voted. I mean, we don't know every single small exchange, but any exchange that holds a sufficient amount of IOTA tokens in the TI range, none of them has done anything this vote. If we look at the top 100 addresses, actually they hold 1,422 TI. That's actually 56% of the complete IOTA supply sitting in these top 100 addresses. This 18 votes, or this 18 addresses altogether hold only 134 TI. So that's 9% of this top 100 tokens have actually voted. Compared to 17% actually of the rest, or if you remove them, actually our participation is even higher. But of course, because they hold a lot of tokens, 31% of all votes that are currently counted are coming from these 18 addresses. Yeah, that's of course 30% is quite a large number. But basically, it looks like that whales and the small people down on Earth, like we, have generally the same view on what should the outcome of this vote be. Yeah, so it's not something that we can say, okay, whales vote different than the rest of the community or the majority of the small token holders. Yeah, so a little bit difference, but this might also be because it's like only 18 addresses. But generally, this sounds like that we have through all levels of token ownership a clear direction how this vote should turn out. Still, we have to see that there is still 5 days time, or 4 days time actually. So things could still change, but it's more and more unlikely. Also, something that is maybe interesting, if we remove from the calculation all the tokens that actually sitting on exchanges or are held by the IOTA Foundation, and we only look on the participation of voters that are not exchanges and institutional entities, then the participation is actually 23%. So we could really say that 23% of the normal fellows that own IOTAs in the range of up to 1 TI or something like this, and there are people from the early days that still hold this. They have maybe invested 5,000 IOTA in 2016, $5,000. That's today 1 TI. So 23% of the community actually have participated, which is, given that it's a difficult topic, also a controversial topic, and also compared to what we see in other projects and in other chains and in other protocols, a very good participation. Most other protocols have by far lower participation in any governance decisions. And I also do some small calculations to just give you a feeling. So if somebody would now want to step in and want to turn the vote around to get a burn decision, there would be needed 701 TI starting voting today, and nothing changed on the build votes. So also no new build votes will come into. But if somebody would now be able to gather 701 TI tokens for burn, then the whole result would in the end come very, very close, but burn would build burn would win. So and this, of course, every hour that passes, this number gets higher. So the chance that the vote gets turned around becomes less and less possible or realistic the further the time progresses. Yeah, I think that's some interesting data. I have a nice little Google sheet created where I collect masses of data and do a lot of calculations around that, because kind of I like this kind of analysis stuff. But yeah, I just wanted to give you some insights what's going on. Any questions to this? Any comments or anything?
I was surprised to see that there were some big votes against it from the whales. That was interesting.
Also, yes. Actually, let me look. The biggest vote for burn, let me see, is coming from an address with. So the biggest burn vote is an address with 10 TI. So there's one address with 10 TI that is clearly voting for burn. Then we have another one with 6.4 TI. So that's 16 TI for burn. And then the rest is here 4 point something for, yeah, so that's actually the 6 addresses. But there is a 10 TI holder that is against it. Well, I mean, everybody is free to make up their mind, and it's understandable. It is a controversial decision, and it is a thing, yeah. And so if somebody has different opinions on that, that's cool. But we see that the majority seems to favor a different option.
Yeah, that's interesting. I would have thought that the small investors would have had a high proportion of burn allocation, but I think that's really good to see, because then it shows that the majority of the investors are actually even more in favor of building, which is a great position to be in.
Yeah, actually, that's correct. If you actually would, I mean, actually, that's a nice thing. I can calculate that. I can kind of move this out and see actually if we remove this top 100 whale votes from the calculation, the build votes from the smaller wallets would definitely be higher than 82%. It would very likely be something like 87 or 88% of the small wallets voting for build. So that's even more confidence in how broad the support in the community of small pocket investors is for build.
Yeah, interesting, but also a little surprising. I would have expected the wealthier investors to have a better understandings to what this outcome could achieve. But I think it's still a great result. I think having over 80% of the votes being in favour of build is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's great work for everyone that's been involved in this vote.
Yeah, I'll actually.
How do you feel about the participation in just compared to other projects and stuff?
Like I said, I think it's already really good. It's pretty good. I see in most of the projects you have a participation got down by, I don't know, 4 or 5% or something like this. If you look into DeFi projects and even big projects like um, Uniswap and Aave, of course they have a lot of delegation also there. But generally, if you look into the amount of tokens that are used for voting, it's mostly below 10%. And if you look on the unique wallet addresses that vote, sometimes it's only like 30 addresses or something like this. Yeah. And I didn't have a look because I mean you can get it out of the API, but I think there's a kind of a lot of data mining needed to actually figure out how many of our 130 or 140,000 addresses have participated in the vote. Maybe one day somebody will sit down and run this analysis. So we might see, but it's different for us because we are not an account-based thing. So you can't, because everybody of us has dozens of addresses already. So it's a bit of difficult. You cannot really identify it. Yeah. In other blockchain model, in like in account-based models, often you have one MetaMask address and then this is more related to one person. And then you see that those projects, they only have 30 addresses, 40, 50 addresses maximum participating in any governance decisions. So I think we have a broad majority of, not majority, but a lot of community members, thousands, I would say, have participated in this vote. That's a feeling. I don't have the data for that, but looks like. And so the 17% is of course because you have to see that if you see this number, yeah, 56% of all tokens are held in these top 100 wallets. Yeah, so actually only only 44% of tokens of votes are actually available for small token holders. And I actually will tomorrow I will sit down and I will go I will extend the list to the top 200 richest addresses, because still the top 100 address holds still holds 3.4 TI. Yeah, so that's still $1 million sitting in this address. So that's not like a small community member. So basically, from the tokens that are available in for the random guys, I think a very big majority of people that are below 100G or below 50G have voted. Yeah, so that's actually a pretty good result, seeing how our token allocation is set up in this large wallets here. Yeah, cool. Yeah, so
so we have what we got a few 5 days before.
Yeah, it's 4 days still actually.
4 days, yeah.
Yeah, only 4 days running. Yeah, so we'll see. Like I said, it can still be turned around if somebody activates over 700 Ti now, but we'll see. I think over the weekend we can become quite confident if everything stays like this is, because then I think I also calculated this. I think if all other tokens that are currently not voting, including all tokens that sit on exchanges and every tokens around that are currently not voting, so the other 88% that are out there, even if they would vote for burn, 33 hours before the vote is over, they wouldn't be able to turn it around. Yeah, so quite on Sunday.
Yeah, because of the weighted vote.
Yeah, so on Sunday, if not the world changes, we can be quite sure that our general general outcome of the vote is quite solid.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay. What else do I have there? Shimmer governance. Anybody interested to actually, this is a thing that I wanted to bring up. I have a proposal. I posted this already in the governance channel a couple of weeks ago, and I wanted to bring this up as a general framework for governance in Shimmer, because there will be some points in Shimmer that the community can decide, like yearly inflation rate, how to distribute staking rewards, supply increase, decrease, things like this that will be open for governance. And so I think we need to have a defined governance process. This is not really, first of all, about how we vote. It's more about how we come to a vote. So actually, if somebody has an idea to change something in Shimmer, in my opinion, there should be a clear defined process of how such a change can be initiated. And I have this idea of these 3 phases, which is actually, this is not all coming out of my head alone. Of course, I took a lot of inspiration from projects that I have observed over the last 12 months, and where I've seen that governance works very well and that I like from their approach, and kind of try to combine most of the good things that I saw out there and put in this thing. Actually, so kind of it's like, it was based on our governance forum, and on a process of first putting up a general discussion, getting feedback on an idea, including this feedback as much as possible, or as much as the proposer likes, into the proposal, and then kind of bringing out a polished and more formalized and structured proposal to the community in the governance forum. Have the community have a poll on it in the forum to get a soft consensus, just to see, is this something that would find support by those people that read it. Yeah, it's a forum. Of course, it's not compared with a cryptographically proven vote, but this is also how most other projects do it. Yeah, you have a discourse forum. People propose ideas. They will be discussed, and then they will move to a stage of a poll. The community in this discourse forum makes a poll, and if this poll looks solid and gets a majority, then this thing will be brought up into a vote by token holders in most projects. And for us, this would mean a vote in Firefly currently, which is currently the only system that we have. And I did put some stuff there, and I will link this this document. It's quite long and quite detailed, but I would really love to get some feedback in the document, because there are some points in it that they don't make headache for me, but I would really like to get some more feedback from the community on this before I put it again in the governance forum to get a poll on it. Especially things like how would we handle a situation where we figure out during a vote is already running in Firefly, and we have already, I don't know, we have 7 days voting or something, and already 2 or 3 days are passed, and then somebody comes up with new information that if we would execute this decision that we are currently voting on, we would put the security of the network at risk. Let's say like this. There would be a bug introduced with the code, or there would be a risk of losing funds. How would we handle such a situation to probably stop this decision from being executed, or not stop it from being executed and say, oh, it's a vote, it's a decision by the community, we have to do it. And so I put up an idea for an emergency process, which has some pros and cons. And if you read through it, I would really, like I said, the doc is open for comments. Make a comment or make a comment in the channel. I would really love to get some input on this idea of how we could implement like a last resort of security and emergency response if we really mess up in the process before and nobody actually figures out that there is a risk of a serious issue while we are already voting on it. That's basically what I would like to get some input, because then I would put it up into the governance forum again and also would ask the community to give a poll on it. And if we see that there is a support in the community for the proposed process, we would possibly also let it be voted in Firefly from the token holders, so that we will then have for Shimmer a defined governance process from which we can start off. And also I define a lot of ways, because this is a bit of an experiment in Shimmer. Yeah? We will need to be able to change things if we figure out that something doesn't work. Governance structures need to be flexible for change. If it's clear that things can be done better. So I put it all
You're going
there.
into the Bali zone again.
Okay.
Your internet connections.
As always. That's mostly a good point for me to
It's
give.
improving now.
Yeah. That's mostly a sign that I'm talking too much and I should give room and word for other people to hop in and talk about some things. Anybody some comments or anybody some topics that we should talk about?
Yeah, I'll make some comments. Just that the what your kill switch idea. I think it has a lot of merits to it. It's a difficult subject, right? And I really think that that's probably one of the. I mean, you've done such a great job on this whole document, and it takes a lot of reading, but it would be really important for the community to actually get involved with trying to understand that issue and express themselves and see how we can fine tune it, because it is a safety measure that protects everybody, but also it kind of flies in the face of code rules all. So it's a difficult discussion.
Yeah. This is why I wanted to bring it up and would really be happy for any kind of input. Yeah, don't be shy. Use the comment function in the document or send me a DM or whatever if you like. Would be great to get some feedback and input from the community. Like Rob said, it's like Greg said, it's a long document, but governance is not always easy. Things need to be defined, and I just post the link in the governance channel to the document. So if you have some time over the weekend, over the days, give it a read and give me some feedback. That would be cool. Anything else? We have Kapi here. We have Rob here. So maybe some of you have read his proposal to increase the Shimmer token supply and give the community its own treasury in Shimmer. And if anybody has some question, or maybe Rob, you want to say something about it, go with the flow.
Cool. I guess for those that haven't seen the proposal, perhaps we could link the proposal in the governance channel. Essentially, at sort of a higher level, the proposal is to increase the token supply of Shimmer by 20%, which at first glance can be considered quite a controversial proposal. But the 20% increase in supply is to help set up a ecosystem fund to help nurture the smart contract ecosystem. When we look at our competitors from the likes of Binance Smart Chain to AVAX to Solana to Phantom, they've all had really large ecosystem funds to help grow the developer base and grow the use cases, and also to grow the value and number of users on their chains. So I'm proposing an ecosystem fund, which is similar but also very different. I think we need to learn from the other chains' mistakes that they've made with their ecosystem funds. I think they've focused too much on perhaps giving grants out to developer teams without any strings attached. And I'd like for our ecosystem fund to be developed in a more sustainable model, whereby we could potentially grow the value of the fund over time by actually making investments into the team, which can pay dividends back, or by providing liquidity, which can earn passive income and a growing asset over time, and perhaps a smaller allocation for grants. The proposal at the moment is for 20% to be split both 10% into a community DAO, which would need to be set up over time, and there'd be need to have a lot of sort of legal and regulatory review and set up the sort of the committee. And I think there'd have to be some additional proposals to set up that community DAO, which could take some time. So in the interim, the proposal is to provide 10% of the ecosystem, the increase in token supply, to the EDF, a new EDF entity based in Switzerland, which would be far freer, more efficient than the legacy EDF entity based in Germany, which had a lot more restrictions to it. But with the new community EDF fund, there'd be a strong emphasis on having a lot more community involvement. So perhaps the committee could be perhaps 6 members being IF committee members, and then perhaps 2 being community members, which could potentially rotate over time, so that there'd be a lot more oversight as to how the funds are being used. And I think it should also be up to the community to set the guidelines on how that those funds are used. It's not the anticipation that the funds would be used for the foundation, that the funds would be solely for the purpose of growing the ecosystem of Shimmer, and really be used as a stopgap in between the DAO being set up and developers needing funding, as well as the IF have a number of contacts and partners which the community potentially wouldn't have access to, and they can do things behind the scenes to help grow the ecosystem as well. And they could use perhaps these ecosystem funds to support that process. So what I'm hoping that we will be able to put a vote to the community sometime over the next month, perhaps after the build and burn vote has gone through. And I think that's a really good sign that we've got sort of 80% of the community that are currently voting for build with the IOTA Treasury vote. And the question's been asked before, like, why could we not just use the IOTA Treasury fund to support Shimmer? And actually there's complications in using those funds as they're currently designated for IOTA, and we'd have to jump to a number of legal hurdles again to allocate those funds to Shimmer over the short term, which I don't believe is possible. Plus, I think it's quite a nice concept to have 3 different ecosystem funds. So there'd be a separate ecosystem fund that would be dedicated to IOTA, which is what we're currently voting on, which is the build and burn vote. Then there could potentially be a separate ecosystem fund for Shimmer, which is what I'm hoping to propose and put a vote for in the near future, which would increase the token supply by 20%. And then once Assembly arrives in the future, then there would be the Assembly ecosystem fund, which off the top of my head, I think is like 40% community and perhaps 10% controlled by the IF. So yeah, that's kind of it in a nutshell. I know that it's a controversial proposal. I certainly wouldn't have put it forward if I didn't believe it was absolutely necessary. I think it is, and to be quite frank, like I have a lot of conflicts in the game. Like I'm building decentralized applications myself, but I'll be quite upfront and honest with you guys. I'm not actually trying to create this ecosystem fund for my own benefit. I think this type of ecosystem fund should be benefiting developers that are currently building unique use cases. And we're trying to bring in developers from other ecosystems that have, solid, unique use cases that we can bring a wider audience across to Shimmer, because I strongly believe that if we have a successful ecosystem, that it's almost like a rising tide. All boats will rise with the tide, and that's my main motivation is to try and create a long-term ecosystem, not just something that is going to die out as soon as potentially assembly arrives. But yeah, I mean, I'd welcome any questions from anyone in the chat room, or if you've got any sort of specific questions that you might not be comfortable asking in this format, then feel free to reach out to me on Twitter is probably the best place.
I have a question for you. I feel like there's a huge difference between doling out funds for a grant and then giving out funds and then expecting something in return. I feel like the criteria for that is so kind of vastly different that I wonder who will decide, which projects might merit like funds thinking that they're going to be able to be profitable or return something. Are we going to, is that like, are we going to outsource that to people who are, who have expertise in that area?
It's a really good question. I think for the proposal that I'd like to put to the community right now, it would be a fairly simple proposal, which would be to increase the token supply by 20%, 10% to the IF, 10% to a community DAO. Now, the question as to how we set the guidance as to how the funds should be utilized. So I've mentioned in the recent past that I think it would work quite nice to have like a 40-20 split. So like 40% would be used for liquidity, 40% for potentially token sales, and 20% for grants. As for the guidelines as to how those funds are allocated, I think there should be a set of guidelines, but I don't think it should be too restrictive. I think there should be guidelines for a committee to then decide as to which projects are worthy of receiving those funds. And it's quite, to be honest, it'll be quite a difficult role for those committee members because, they need to ensure that they don't have conflicts of interest. They need to ensure that they have the right level of knowledge and expertise. And to be honest, that they're quite few and far between that have a really high level of Web3 knowledge without already having a lot of conflicts of interest within the IOTA ecosystem. I was speaking to a number of people within the German community recently that have a business background, have worked as like CEOs in various different businesses, and also have a good understanding of the Web3 development. And I think it'd be, I don't want to drop their names because I don't think it's fair, but I think individuals of that kind of stature would be well accepted within such a committee to make those decisions. But I think it would be up to the community through a proposed vote to actually vote people onto that committee. And then potentially there's an option to rotate that committee over time. So it doesn't just stay, stagnant. And if people are unhappy with the performance of the committee, then, they should have the power to put a proposal together to hire additional committee members or replace committee members from the DAO, for example.
The reason why I'm asking that is because if it's grants, then it's almost like people in the community can decide, like, oh, this project or that project sounds kind of cool, and it could possibly help the ecosystem or, grow IOTA's awareness and stuff, or Shimmer's awareness. But if it's on the merit that we expect some kind of profit or return, then I feel like we have to rely on people who have that kind of experience or expertise. And then to me, it's like Shimmer was more about a network for the community, and I feel like pigeonholing it to those kind of expectations is almost like kind of taking that responsibility away from the community.
I still see it as very much of a community network, and it's the community that will be putting these proposals forward and voting on these proposals. and it'll be the community that would sit on the committee that would ultimately decide which projects receive funding. I disagree to a certain extent on like the skill set needed to decide as to whether someone receives a grant in comparison to someone that receives maybe liquidity or token sales. I think you need people that are making key critical decisions on all three of those different types of funding, because even if you're providing a grant to a team, even if you're not expecting a economic return into the ecosystem fund, you're still expecting probably a far greater return in the growth of the ecosystem, because you're essentially giving away the ecosystem funds to help grow the ecosystem and ultimately indirectly grow the value of Shimmer to a greater extent than just providing liquidity to a project. So I think it requires a really key set of skills of individuals within the community that can provide those, that can make those decisions. It's not possible for the community to vote on every ecosystem grant or ecosystem like liquidity proposal. So it would be reliant on the community voting for a number of people to sit on that committee, which I've already said in the past that I would take my name out of the hat, because I'm either working or acting as an advisor on a few different DeFi projects, and it just wouldn't work from like a conflicts of interest perspective from my angle. But I think people that are potentially just working on one project within the Web3 space that can disclose their conflicts of interest and not vote on similar protocols would be well accepted into, would be in a good position to act as a member of such a committee.
What I maybe wanted to add to this, also in regards of your question, Overclock, I think it is really something that might be good not to mix up, because I absolutely feel you and understand that if there's a grant, or if there's a community treasury in Shimmer that is kind of owned by the community, this should and can, in my opinion, be really also used a little bit under this okay, that's really something that the community, they want to support those builders that are, they're already known to us. We know that they come out of our community and things like this. And so this is, I think, the good point on this proposal, to have like 10% managed by the EDF, because this can be much easier be used for such critical decisions. I mean, because we have kind of a lot of people, just look at Mark, he's doing this stuff since years full time. Then we have other people that actually really would also have the time and the knowledge to make such critical decisions in which project to provide liquidity, how to move on into a token sale and things like this. And so maybe this is a nice thing that the community focuses more on really community-based grant projects, and let's say that is the pros take care about the really high complex financial vetting of potential projects that should be funded. Yeah, and so the community can really use those tokens more for, let's say, marketing, for providing support for people that produce YouTube videos, that produce documentation, that help to create dev tools and public good funding, yeah, and things like this. And maybe really it's good to have some tokens allocated to the pros that have the time and the knowledge and the skills and the resources to make these very, very difficult decisions in most likely a better way than a community vote would be the thing then. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
I'm going to deviate from that line of thinking. So if you want to finish up on this one, that might be good.
I was just going to finish up on the proposal increase. I strongly believe that the majority of the value within the Shimmer token is going to be derived by the economic activity on that smart contract chain. So essentially, the more economic activity that we can bring onto the chain and incentivize like new use cases through this ecosystem fund, the greater the value of the Shimmer token long term. So I've made this analogy before, but I strongly believe that the concept is that we're giving away 20% of the token supply. First of all, that's not being sold on day one. It's, you know, the developers that receive those funds will receive them over a long period of time and won't necessarily sell on as soon as they receive them. But it's kind of looking at this like a cake. Do you want like 80% of a really big cake of great volume, or do you want 100% of a much smaller cake? And so like I've got my eyes on the big cake, and I want to, you know, be part of like a much bigger community ecosystem with Shimmer. I think it is necessary to have an incentive program to support that. It's just a kind of closing remark I wanted to make.
Yeah, I agree that the fund should be there. That's my perspective. But I also think the elephant in the room that really hasn't been taken on a whole lot, or maybe I've missed it, is you were asking people who've already entered into an agreement on they've staked, they had their money, they basically understood what the allocations were, and now post this, you're saying take a 20% hit. So that fundamentally changes the financial arrangement that they thought they entered into, and why they put their money out there, right, for that period of time in order to get that many shares of SMR. Okay, or tokens, let's call them. So the answer to that right now is, well, it'll just be better, which I get, and that's the whole analogy about the cake makes sense. But I also wonder if there's a way that through dividends or something, is there something that can be done for the people that are actually having their shares devalued through some type of program to be rewarded or provided some other incentives? I don't know. I haven't seen that really addressed. I think I saw some ideas before, but I haven't really heard a lot of talking about it.
Can I give a little?
Sure.
Just my I think yes, but I mean everybody will have the return in an increased network activity. That's the one thing. Other thing that maybe we should not forget, it was kind of never clear kind of what percentage or how much share of the network you get, because it was only related on the amount of people that have staked. Yeah? If only half of the people would have staked, not 70% or something, only 40%, everyone would have still the same amount of tokens, but you would actually have a much bigger share in the network. And if more people would have staked, you would still have the same amount of token, but you would have a much smaller percentage of the network. And when everybody started to stake, nobody did know how much share of the network of this full 100% tokens that will exist you actually get. So that's the thing. It was kind of, like I said, it was not a clear thing, that it was not clear there will be 100 million supply, and if you stake, you will get this and this and this amount. Yeah, so it was kind of a flexible scheme from the beginning. And another thing maybe that is good to remember is that while it was announced, there were also these plans of the NFT sale for the jerseys. So it was kind of, there were always plans that depending on how much these NFTs would have sold and how the pledges and the extra rewards would have been, it was clear that even if you stake now, and the people that buy those NFTs, they will get extra tokens for that. Of course, we changed it, but this was already changed during we were already staking. So I know I see those arguments, but it's a little bit, I don't know, maybe narrow-minded to say kind of I've been going into a legal contract with the IF with my investment on the first day that I started staking, because there were no clear conditions of actually if your portion of tokens that you get from staking, if it's 1% of all tokens that exist, 10% of all tokens that exist, or 0.0001% of all tokens that exist, because this depended on all the other stakers that also stake. So it's a bit of a, I understand fully those, and I respect those arguments, but I don't see them really holding tight. Yeah.
Fair enough.
You know,
I just think that I'm just I just wanted to, a lot of people want to dodge that. I just think that the answer needs to be like what you shared is good information. That needs to be well articulated, because I think this is not the first time I brought that up based upon input I got from other people. So I'm not.
No, that's
I'm
good.
for the fund. I just was trying to see if we could find something to even make it more compelling.
Like I think what Greg says does have a point, because in people's minds, even if it's a perception thing, they're thinking that I'm giving up 20% of my holdings, so they want to know for what, right?
Yeah,
Even if Holger, like you say, it's not like a contractual thing that's happening, and there was always, thoughts or ideas about how to get increase the ecosystem in various ways and stuff, the supply or whatever. I think when Greg brings up the idea of people thinking that they're losing 20% of their personal investment or holdings, and they're wondering then, what am I receiving in return? In my mind, like when I ask that, and then in my mind, when I hear, it's gonna fund, various projects and stuff, to me that sounds really cool and interesting. But at the same time, I feel like, I'm relying on others to do that. So it's like I'm gonna be trusting, a few people again to, make it worthwhile in the future. Do you know what I mean? It's not. It's not
I know,
like.
I know. I really know what I mean, but I just see it like there will there will be either kind of not much happening on Shimmer, or there will be incentives for people to kind of make something out of this network and bring activity and in the end value, because everybody that kind of gets those Shimmer tokens is thinking about there might be a point I'm going to sell them if there's a price and if there's a market and if there's a rising price for my investment. And in my opinion, the best way of having uh, reaching such a point where actually you get something out is having a network that is actively used by builders and by teams and by, and so that's really, I think it was quite good what Kapi shared in his proposal in the governance forum, these examples of other ecosystems, because it's quite clear that networks that start without any such an incentive program, fund, DAO, treasury, or whatever, they actually do nothing. And other networks that have incentive programs and have a way of rewarding builders, bringing teams in, having incentives for the network, they kind of, all of them overtook us in the last 2 years. Yeah, they are now top 10 projects, and IOTA is somewhere in, I don't know, 60 or something. And it's very clear playbook out there how the crypto market works. It's a game that we kind of need to play.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I'm actually late for a team meeting, so I'm going to have to shoot. But I've really enjoyed the conversation, including some of the constructive discussions that we've had on Shimmer. Happy to continue them either on Twitter or through the governance forum, or if you want to reach out to me on Discord. I think at the end of the day, this is a community proposal, so it's great that we've got other discussion points from everybody in the community. But apologies, I've got to shoot now.
All right, man. Thanks.
Cool, Cappy. Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Bye. Yeah, cool. Anybody else got some input on that? Even if Rob is not there, I think it's a really interesting thing to talk about and to chat about and to get opinions together.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate, I'm for doing this. I was just trying to see if there's other things that we could do or provide more,
Yeah, I mean, if I would think if I
more
yeah if,
benefits to it or
yeah
something,
if I
just
would
explore
think
the
about
subject.
something like this, let's say if you have a DAO that gives a grant to a project, you of course can tell the project, okay, hello project X, you are launching your project token on Shimmer. Uh, if you want a grant from the community treasury, we expect you to airdrop 1% of all your tokens to all Shimmer addresses, to all holders back. Why it's easy to do something. You can say, okay, you need 100,000 K community investment. Please drop 100,000 K value of your tokens to every Shimmer holder. Very easy to do, and I think for them wouldn't be a big issue to do something like this in return for having capital to start building and then have a have a
Okay.
have a product, and then every
Stuff like that. Yeah, ideas like that I think are meaningful, and I think that would, to get back to what Overclock was saying, the community. We've all been in the community long enough to know that people will jump on the "hey, you're taking something away from me" bandwagon.
Yes.
It just happens, right? We just know that.
Yeah.
That's what the community does.
Yeah, it's definitely going to happen. I wonder if we even need to allocate money to the IF because haven't they also staked their tokens for Shimmer?
Yes, the IF will have something like 1.1%
Yeah.
or something like this, kind of like that's all. Yeah, so that's not really a war chest compared if you look into other projects that have
not at all.
20, I mean,
Okay.
even 10% is really low. Usually, if you start a new chain, the team has allocations of 20-30% that they can give away for incentives. So I mean, 10% is really the lowest with what you can do anything, I think.
Yeah. So just to get back to this, go ahead, Werner. Sorry.
I thought okay. Something I thought of was that maybe we should not release the 20% all at once. Like we say, we are more like releasing that over time. We already have these locked outputs that you can't spend for a while on Stardust. So we could, like, say we are unlocking 1% every 6 months or so.
Of course.
Maybe start with a bit more, but I think that would make it less tragic. Because otherwise we'll have people say, oh, they're going to dump that on the market and all that.
Yeah, but that's. I mean,
that's that. I feel.
Yeah,
I feel this is also like often done by other projects that they just lock up the team fundings for a while, so
of course
they can't spend it all at once. So I think this should definitely be an option to consider.
I think, but one thing is important in Capi's proposal. This is not a team allocation. Yeah, so it's not actually going to the IOTA Foundation. It is put in a fund, and then it should go to builders or projects. Yeah. So, but of course, it may be really a good idea to say, okay, in the first 6 months, maximum 2% of this 10%, or whatever, or 10% of the 10% can be spent, so that you have like a clear budget that you can allocate over time, which then
exactly.
You always have to say it's kind of different to really have an idea of how much would be needed in which phase of the network. Maybe there is a huge, overwhelming interest in the beginning, and you need kind of a lot of tokens in the beginning, or there is a slow start, and only after the EVM chain is live and the market gets better, then a huge influx. So it's actually a good idea to think about. But I think this is something that could then really be something like a follow-up proposal, or can be definitely mentioned in the proposal of Rob, to have such plannings in place. Maybe not with fixed amounts yet, but so that the community knows that there are actually thoughts in this direction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All of that stuff is important. It makes sense. I will say, because I'm involved with a project, right? It's sometimes you need funds, so you can't make it too restrictive, right? Because, like, I'll just with the Sooniverse, for example, we receive funds, right? And immediately the market dropped 50% on us, right? So the funds that we received overnight were worth 50% less. So then you're forced to sell, and you take a haircut, but you're not working with the capital that you thought you had, right? So, those things happen. I just want to make sure that, like, you don't handcuff. I mean, put measures in place to make sure that all of this stuff isn't spent all at once, but also try to leave some flexibility in there for people to be able to deal with market effects.
Yeah, so like just to elaborate on this, I'm starting to realize that the people who are spending the most time and energy in all areas of these of IOTA and Shimmer and Assembly are actually builders, or people who have projects, because they're investing a lot of you know because they want to see the network succeed because they want to succeed, right? So to me, it's kind of weird to always be trying to separate people's motives from what's actually going on with all these proposals and stuff. So when we talk about, like, when people say, like, I want to see this done, but we have to be careful about conflicts of interest and stuff. I think that there needs to be a certain amount of acceptance that there is going to be a melding of interests with a lot of these things, and kind of accept that. So my point before was, like, I think this 20% increase is a good idea, but I always feel like the community should have more oversight, than kind of giving that responsibility to experts or select people. And to me, the thing that I question is, you know, instead of like, you know, ideas about giving back to the community, focusing on ideas about, like, getting profits or returns and stuff.
But I actually think we have quite a lot of very skilled people in the community. They might not be visible so much, but I think if we would start to look really for them and kind of propose and say, hey, we are really looking for people that maybe have worked for a VC for a couple of years, that are part of the finance sector, that actually have experience in other sectors. They have maybe founded 2 or 3 startups already. I think we have those people in the community, and they might not even be actually building something themselves in the moment, or are kind of part of any projects, but they have this real life experience from their normal real life job. We have those people there, and if we can activate some of them, they might be just normal casual guys that in spec they post memes whole day, but actually they're doing this out of their Wall Street office and just enjoying being part of the IOTA community. I think we have those people, and if we can get those people involved in such a thing with their knowledge that they bring from their real world job, and they would be able to engage in such a decision making process, that would be absolutely amazing. Yeah? So we don't need really foreign experts or something. I think if we look around, we can find them in our community.
Part of this, as we've discussed before, is you pay for what you get. So these individuals probably should be compensated, right, with SMR or something from the fund, would,
of course.
right?
Of course, this is
Okay.
the thing. Depending, I mean, it really depends on the setup in the end. Yeah, if you
Yeah.
really would say, okay, there is a grant giving committee of 10, 12 experts, and then depends on how much work they need to do. Yeah, but this can come into a full-time job. But then on the other hand side, like I said, it's maybe nice if we don't find them also in the beginning, or if people are not really willing to quit their day job to become a grant manager. There's still an allocation on the side of the IOTA Foundation where people actually doing this as their full-time job and could bootstrap the first couple of months until the community has found a proper setup of people and rewards for those people that then can take over more and more this job.
Yeah, I know we're running long, but one thing, I would want to touch on what you just said on the prior to this about the shares, getting tokens allocated from the projects. That makes sense to me. Now, do you envision that just going to the Treasury? That in this case, it would be the
No, I wouldn't.
SMR Treasury, or directly to the SMR holders?
Yeah, from a legal perspective, I think it would be cleverer actually to give it directly to all token holders, because
that is a good, like, I was just thinking about that, and I think that
because
like if you could map that, especially so the early SMR people, right? They're early adopters. They put money out there. They staked it for a long time. So they should get
it. They should get it first of all because of it's more fair. Than waiting that it has the treasury and then the treasury will also one day sell it or something. No, if projects distribute something as an airdrop, then give it to the token holders. From a legal perspective, it's also much better for the treasury because then you could keep the treasury a non-profit organization. You have much more flexible ways to set this up if you're not receiving profits and you're not actually doing investments, you're just giving grants. Yeah, you can do this Marshall Island thing, which is quite easy to set up and also not really expensive and provides everything. The only thing is that you are not aiming for profits and distributing dividends to your members. So then it's always difficult if you create income because a lot of people drop tokens to you in your treasury. So this might be easier to just, and fairer also, to give it to the Shimmer token holders directly.
Yeah, it'd also be interesting you just made me think about the tax implications of what a SMR drop would mean to me or anybody else, and as well as, right?
Also. I think,
hey guys,
Dennis, Dennis,
do
you want to say something? Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. I was just listening, just bumped into this. So, and I had some free time. So I think, hey, let me listen to this. I do sympathize with the thoughts that you want to give every participant in the Shimmer network a certain amount of tokens from a project. Certainly when we are talking about open source projects or open source protocols, because you will also activate the network or infrastructure in case of our own infrastructure. The only thing that I see as a limit at this point is appointing again a few, or let's say a dozen of experts who are, let me say, getting swamped maybe by all kinds of new appliances, and it will maybe backfire because you see already from we are lacking behind as a total not only foundation but also like us. We are still waiting for smart contracts, right? It's like we have to speed up some process. So, and to speed up, it doesn't necessarily mean that we need to have 12 experts who are going to be maybe a major slowing. They will slow us down before they are fasting us up. And I would more like to see like a lottery thing where people within the community who are already for a long time in our community, in the Discord community, and we all know them, right? I don't know everybody, but we all know the one who is sitting on the left or on the right from us. So eventually everybody will know each other. And from that point on, you can say from, okay, we have like, I don't know, 5 projects who want to have some from the, they need a funding. So those 12 individuals who have been chosen, they will go over that over those projects and decide yes or no, but they will never be chosen for the next few rounds, because then you make sure that you don't have like a very long waiting line where everybody has to do something besides their work or between the work or whatsoever. So please keep that in mind. If you do this, make sure that there will be no waiting line whatsoever. We need to act fast and we need to act swift. So that's just my
your point
2
is well
cents.
taken. I mean, we have this bridge fund group, and we've, the whole idea was, it was first called the speed fund group. I mean, and so we have discussed this, right? It's a difficult process when you're handing out large sum of money to make sure that you need to have enough process to make sure that you're not just giving money to scammers, right? And also you need to also be able to act with haste, or not haste, maybe that's not the right word, but act as quickly as possible, because we need to get market effects going as fast as possible. And you got to try to like find the fundamental process to allow you to do that. Also, you need to accept that you're going to have some rug pulls. You're going to there's going to be projects where that we will get scammed on. That's just going to be a fact, right?
So sorry to interrupt you, but you also know that we already have a filtering system in place. The Touchpoint program is already like a filtering system. So you already can prevent that we have scammers in our first initial rounds. I would like to suggest that we also take this into our mindset. So for all the projects who are in Touchpoint at this point, they have all been interviewed, they have all been questioned, they have, I don't know, they showcase something whatsoever. So it's already like a threshold.
That's actually
okay. That's an interesting point.
Yeah.
I don't know that it was discussed. Maybe it's just a oversight on my part, but I didn't know that people that would look for funding from this would have to be going through Touchpoint.
No, I think they wouldn't. But I think what Dennis, what you mean is, I really understand it. It kind of we have those projects that are currently part of Touchpoint. So those would be, of course, prime candidates for receiving the first grants with not such a big need of a long process of researching and things, because actually it is true. This is what we have already done. It doesn't mean that we are like kind of giving guarantees on Touchpoint projects, but of course we have some checks in place, and we are working actively with those projects to make them a success. Yeah, and so that's actually a pretty good point. That would maybe be even an idea to have something like let's say have a little bit quick allocation, that first of all would be a support and showing some support for projects that have already turned themselves into the idea of building on IOTA and assembly and Shimmer. Because kind of when you are currently in Touchpoint, you are betting on the future and you are taking a bet on and you are investing yourself already into the ecosystem. And so that's really a nice point actually, Dennis.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea. I had not, like I said, I had not considered that. That was a good point.
Cool, yeah.
But again, it's just like, we want to go fast as possible, but we need to make sure that we try to have proper evaluation of projects as well, right? So the touch point thing.
Of course, you want to have proper
right?
evaluation. Yeah, you want to have proper evaluation.
Yeah.
But you already know, everybody's aware that when this will be set loose, you will have maybe 20, 40, 60 projects coming in, right? Which you even don't know. You didn't even know that it was existing in their heads.
Totally agree with that.
You don't even know those people somewhere. And I'm just suggesting, and it doesn't have to be that way, but just suggesting hey, listen, Corey and Christian are already doing these interview sessions. So there is a little bit more confidence that the projects that are all in there, they have done some screening. So it is more easier. And for the people who are coming in later, or just thinking from, hey, there's something to gain, and maybe I can rock pull something.
Yes.
You can investigate more and thoroughly throughout that time period that you have, because you have already got a line with credible persons or organizations who want to do something and want to build and want to develop.
Yeah, I think it's great. The Bridge Fund group, which what we've been doing there is we're trying to build the framework, kind of the operating procedures in some way, so that when the Treasury DAO goes forth, let's say just now moving over, this is not SMR, but this is moving over to just the one for the community DAO build versus burn thing, is we're trying to build up the framework so they can go from a running start, so they don't have to think a lot of these issues. And then that also is now being considered for running, being used, some of that content for SMR and other initiatives. But we have we put together kind of a matrix of things and information that people, the evaluators could go through quickly, and that the people would submit. The projects that would submit that are looking for funding would actually have to fill out a bunch of criteria, and then this is all designed to actually allow the committee or whoever the people are that are making the decisions on behalf of SMR or whatever, or the Build versus Burn Treasury group, that they could actually quickly go through, identify gaps, and then kind of look at the ones that should be getting funded. So a lot of the vetting process you're talking to as well. So maybe the two can work together. But that's also kind of, again, all working towards speed and just being able to process with the vision of saying, hey, we're going to get, we could potentially get slammed with a whole bunch of projects, 100 maybe or more, right? And all of a sudden, then we're like, how do we even figure out what's the order that we evaluate these projects? What's the criteria, right, to make it as expedient as possible? So
yeah, I feel like instead of what you guys are talking about, constantly reinventing the wheel and going through the same processes over and over again, we're setting things up. There might be different groups, but what Greg's talking about and what Dennis is talking about is that there are already people who are fully committed to IOTA, Shimmer, and Assembly within the community who are working on, these processes. And it just seems to be a waste of resources to constantly redo these things with different people, Yep. So maybe focus on what, people who have been committed and, to the community and the networks, and build on that instead of redoing it.
Yeah. But the observation of like integrating the touch point people into it makes sense.
Absolutely.
And it's interesting. I'm not even sure like what Corey and those guys. I remember going through like the initial evaluation with that, on the projects, but I don't know that it actually went through the same type of criteria that we have put together. So it's interesting.
Because Greg, you've been the first Touchpoint Pro, Graham. You missed all the stuff that they developed later. So I think the process is
that's true.
process
That's very possible, right?
the process is now a little bit more advanced than it was for the first three projects. Yeah, but still, of course, this doesn't mean that the Touchpoint projects are automatically vetted. So there still needs to be some look into it. But I also could think that would be maybe something. I mean, if you are really it's a first of all, it's a gift to the community. Yeah, Shimmer, you all get it basically for free. You could even say something. Okay, we know we have 24 projects here now in Touchpoint or whatever that are already known in our community and something. Give them for a startup a small allocation without big questions. Not much, but kind of something that everybody gets the same fraction of, I don't know, 10,000 Shimmer tokens, whatever, a random number, that they have something to start and play around. Because kind of we say, okay, these are projects we know, they are committed, they are part of the community, they are teams from us, from within. Give them something to start on the network, let them have some tokens to play around, and then if they need more, we go through a regular process and something like this. I mean, you can, all kind of crazy ideas can be on the table. Yeah, actually, like it's like.
I wouldn't suggest that. Just to be, from my point of view, let's say that I want to have a funding round. I want to have some funds. Then I'm first going to get 10,000. What kind of number you are saying? I get 10,000 tokens, and then I have to play with it. But I need real funding.
Yes.
What are we going to do then? So, well, I'm sorry, but you had received 10,000. You can step on the side of the line and go back on the other side, and let other people join first and get them the bigger funding. I just advocate from the community developers or builders who have been attached to IOTA Foundation for a long time, that there shouldn't be a waste of time, and there shouldn't be a waste of money also. It's nice to have 10,000, but it doesn't add up if you say from here you have 10,000, now you're going back to the other parts or the other persons who we don't know, and let's go too early to that process.
Yeah, that's true.
I wouldn't really suggest that.
No, that shouldn't be like that. Not cool. Yeah, but I think the idea generally, actually, I will have to. I'll talk with Christian about this. Kind of if we are. I mean, of course, there's some legal questions also around that, because really we don't want to vet on. I mean, most of them, of course, are part of Touchpoint because we believe that they have a solid idea and they do good stuff. So yeah, that's definitely a good direction to think about, especially for, like you said, for the first kickstart of the ecosystem. Yeah, I mean, those are the projects that are already there. We know them. All of them are kind of solid in our opinion. So yeah, cool ideas.
Cool.
Yeah. My friends.
Yeah. Late for you, so we should probably wrap this up.
Late for me. If anybody has other important things to bring up, if not, we can slowly let it drain out and and continue all those discussions in the governance channel chat, and also you can always join our nearly daily DAO Pioneer sessions if you're interested in general governance. We have the Bridge Fund meets Wednesday, I think. Also quite interesting meeting.
Yes.
where you can hop on. We will have Twitter Space on Tuesday morning potentially. So we have a lot. We have all the time meetings in the community. Just hop in one of them, or hop in one of the channel. If you find a chance, I have linked my proposal for the Shimmer governance process and Kapi's proposal around the supply increase again in the governance channel. Give those, so in the governance discussions, give those things a read. And like I said, if you have any comments on my Shimmer proposal, you can leave comments directly in the document, or you can DM me. Same with Kapi. And yeah, let's keep this good mood up. It was a really great talk today, and we will see you latest next week on Thursday, same time like this. Okay.
All right. Thanks, fellow.
Bye
Thanks,
bye,
you guys.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks.
See you.
Here, bye.
See you guys. Have fun.
Bye.